Are you new to Valorant? Not sure what to focus on to improve? No problem. My name is Valued, and today I'm going to be giving you a guide targeted for beginners. Without further ado, let's get right into the good stuff. The best place to start for new players is in your settings. There's a lot that you can change, but I'm going to focus on 3 main settings that you should fine-tune to your liking. The first is your actual video settings. You should adjust your graphic settings to make sure you're able to achieve more frames than your monitor's refresh rate can handle. For example, if you have a 60Hz monitor, you should achieve 90 plus FPS consistently to avoid having game stutters and achieve a consistent result. To start seeing game performance improvements, consider dropping settings to low, such as texture quality, material quality, detail quality, and etc. I would also recommend turning off VSync as it hinders your performance. For the next setting, I want to talk about crosshairs, simply because the default crosshair Valorant gives you is not optimal. It has indicators for movement and recoil, which ultimately, in my opinion, just get in your way. Most players tend to use a few crosshair styles, but everyone has their own preference and you'll find yours with time. Personally, I like to go between 2 different crosshairs. First, I use what we call a dot crosshair, which is a small circle on my screen. This one is nice because it doesn't clutter my screen and I can easily see opponents' heads. Then all I have to do is place the dot on their head, shoot, and get a kill. But this crosshair can sometimes feel difficult, especially when I'm not playing my best. When that happens, I often go to a more standard style crosshair that looks like this. This one's nice because it's a bit more forgiving. If I place the middle of the crosshair in the general vicinity of the enemy, I'll be hitting them every single time. But to wrap up the crosshair conversation, whatever you prefer is up to you, and you'll figure this out over time. Just make sure you change your crosshair to something that isn't the default. Finally, for settings, I want to end on arguably the most important one, which is your sensitivity. This is a very hot topic and one that can be pretty complex, so let me help break it down. When it comes to sensitivities, you can't just copy a pro's sensitivity and expect it to work. There's a lot of variables to consider, such as wrist aiming versus arm aiming, DPIs, what mouse you have, what mouse pad you have, wireless versus wired mouse, and much more. That's why I personally would recommend fine-tuning your sensitivity for your setup and your style. And there's a couple of ways that I would recommend you do this. First, if you feel completely lost on sensitivity, AimLab has a new tool called the Sensitivity Finder. It helps you to find the sensitivity that you perform most consistently with. And while I'm not going to demonstrate it completely in this video, I will link a video in the description that demonstrates the tool and how it can help you. But if you'd prefer to rough it and figure out your sensitivity for yourself, here's a couple of general sensitivity rules that you can follow. First, you want to have control over your crosshair and feel confident about making microflicks. This means you don't want your sensitivity to be too high. At the same time though, you need to be able to turn quickly enough to flick on opponents and dodge flashes, so it shouldn't be too low. What I'm saying with this is you need to find a sensitivity in the middle, and the number value for this will change based on all the variables I mentioned before. When you're starting out, your sensitivity is something you might be adjusting regularly after different situations occur. One thing I want to mention about this though is once you feel like you found a sensitivity that's comfortable, try not to change it too much because building muscle memory on one sensitivity is really important. For our next section, I want to talk about something that every new player needs to learn, and that is the agents. Each agent in Valorant is unique and offers a variety of utilities to support their teammates, entry frag, concuss enemies, and much more. Understanding what each of them offers is very important because it will prepare you to face the agents on the enemy team and help you to work better with certain agents on your own team. To learn the agents, there's a few things you can do. First, the most obvious, you can try out all the agents you have. If you're gonna do this, I would recommend doing it in custom matches because you can enable cheats to simply use all of the abilities the agent has and see what they do for yourself. The only problem with this technique is that when you first start playing, you're not gonna have all the agents unlocked. So to learn the agents you don't have, there's a couple things you should do. First, you should pay attention to your teammates when you're dead and spectating them, and watch what their agent can do. Additionally, you can watch videos about each of the agents to see them more in detail. Speaking of which, we'll be making those guides right here on the channel. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out. Anyways, agents will come with time, as will our next topic, Maps. Maps in Valorant play a major role in your ability to perform. If you don't know the maps well, you're essentially walking in blind. Understanding common cheese angles, choke points, and the overall layout of the map will help you more than anything when you're first starting out. Once you learn the maps, you'll know where enemies tend to play, when they can arrive at certain angles, and you'll be able to predict their movement much easier. Taking the time to learn these maps will pay dividends in your gameplay. To give you an example of this, let's say I'm a new player, and I'm approaching the B bomb site on Ascent. I wouldn't know a few key things that could end up getting me killed. For example, enemies can beat you to this corner on the right if they walk into B main right as the spawn barriers drop. And that's something I know because I've died to it in the past and I've played the angle myself. They'll commonly also play logs, market, at the door switch, stairs, CT, lane, boathouse, and more. I know that sounds like a lot to take in, but all of these angles will come with time, as will the callouts that I just demonstrated. These are very important to know because teammates will often call out enemy locations, and if you don't know the callouts they're saying, you won't know where to look based on the information you've just received. It's important to learn the maps, and my favorite way to do it is just by going into a custom match and exploring the angles. And when it comes to the callouts, most of the commonly known callouts are actually just the names of these locations on the minimap. When you're studying in a custom match, pay attention to all the openings and chokes that a certain angle might have. On top of this, you should be paying close attention to enemy locations as you play regular matches and try to pick up on their patterns and trends that are displayed. Well, in this video, I've certainly saved the best for last: crosshair placement. Crosshair placement is one of the most overpowered things in Valorant, and it will help you more than anything else. Getting good at this skill will make every single gunfight much easier, and it'll start to unlock the game for you. Before I jump into the meat of crosshair placement, I do need to say it's going to be a lot easier to use crosshair placement once you've learned the maps. Because unfortunately, it's kind of hard to know where to aim if you don't know the maps. That's why I've ordered the video in the way that I have. But anyway, let me get into crosshair placement. Simply put, crosshair placement is just how it sounds, where you're placing your crosshair. In Valorant, the general rule of thumb is that you should place your crosshair where you believe enemies will be playing, at head level. And I can't stress the head level part enough. If you get good at understanding where the head of your opponent will appear on each angle, you'll find yourself getting a ton more kills. You want to get in the habit of placing your crosshair at head level on every single angle that you're clearing. This is going to help you avoid leg shotting, as leg shots do less damage and require more bullets to kill an opponent as a result. If you feel like crosshair placement is a pain point for you, AimLab has an awesome tool called Deathmatch that helps you get comfortable placing your crosshair at head level. It has little helpful indicators that let you know when you're aiming at the proper level. So if you're struggling with this concept and want a more guided improvement experience, check out Deathmatch on AimLabs Plus in the description below. The reason that crosshair placement is really important is because it makes aiming a ton easier. You don't have to adjust your crosshair as much if you have it pre-placed where an enemy will appear, or at least in the general vicinity of where they might be playing. To demonstrate crosshair placement, I want to show you an example of how you can implement crosshair placement into your game. To do this, I'm going to break down a quick clip of myself attacking the A site on Ascent. So you'll see here right away, I get a pretty easy kill on Harbor because he's lurking, not paying attention, and I have my crosshair placed right on his head. As I continue to the site, you'll notice that I'm scanning common angles, placing my crosshair at head level. When I look at Heaven, I get lucky on my timing and Jet appears right where my crosshair was, so I got an easy kill. As you'll see here, Raze ends up surprising me a little bit and I have to flick for this kill, but it wasn't too hard because my crosshair was in the right spot. Then, Sova decides to shoot a dart, so I get out of Heaven because it's a little bit of a bad spot. I go to help my teammates here, and notice how I place my crosshair right where her head's going to appear. Crouch spray, and I get an easy kill. Now, this is by no means a perfect clip, and you can see I miss a few shots, but you can see through my explanation how a lot of these fights were much easier for me simply because I focused on my crosshair placement. And you can do the same with a little bit of practice that I explained earlier. And that, everybody, is gonna do it for part 1 of the beginner guide to Valorant. It's impossible to cover everything in one video, but with these 4 fundamental skills that you've now learned, you're much better equipped to start getting some kills and feeling a little bit more confident in your game. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any more of the guides here on the channel. My name has been Valued, and I'll see you in the next one.